Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I'm like so excited about our guest today. On a personal level, Audrey Johnson is, I'm going to read her bio, but she's also my vocal coach, and she's amazing. She's just amazing. She's an extremely interesting human being, and I'm just going to read her bio and bring her on because I can't wait for you to meet her. Okay, so throughout her career, the performance of American vocal works and the delivery of classical music to American audiences have been integral parts of mezzo-soprano, because her voice kicks ass, but mezzo-soprano Audrey Johnson's artistic focus with lasting effect to all listeners. Audrey received her Bachelor of Music degree from Simpson College and her Master of Music degree from the University of Houston. She is also a graduate of the improvisation program at the Second City Training Center in Chicago, as well as the Nautilus program in Minnesota, which trains opera singers in the single actor techniques of renowned opera director Wesley Bach. This is nothing to balk at. Sorry, I had to. Okay, so, sorry. Operatic roles of the standard repertory include Hansel in Hansel and Gretel, Berta in Il Barbiere di Siviglia, Giovanna in Rigoletto, Mrs. de Rocher in Hege's Dead Man Walking, Meg in Adamo's Little Women, Cherubino in Le Noche di Figaro, Prince Charming in Massenet's Cendrillon, Prince Orlovsky in Die Fledermaus? Die Fledermaus, damn it, okay. Mercedes in Bizet's Carmen, Vitige in Handel's Flavio, and Zaida in Rossini's Il Turco in Italia. In addition to domestic engagements, Audrey has sung with orchestras in Darmstadt and Wernigerode. I don't even know these words. It's great. You can say it afterwards, because I think this is also amazing. And she was also a winner of the Wiesbaden Wagner competition, which allowed her to attend the renowned Bayreuth Summer Festival. In addition to roles performed on the traditional operatic stage, Audrey has had especially meaningful and rewarding experiences with outreach platforms, portraying the role of Hansel in a touring production of Hansel and Gretel, with Opera for the Young in 2011 and 2012. Audrey performed in dozens of school performances throughout the Midwest. She was the mezzo-soprano resident artist with Shreveport Opera the following season, where in addition to main stage roles, she performed in hundreds of outreach productions of both The Ugly Duckling, an opera for elementary schools, and The Final Word, an anti-bullying opera for middle schools, as well as countless concert and gala performances in library, senior centers, and other community venues throughout Louisiana and the greater Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas area. Inspired by these experiences, as well as by her American ancestry, Audrey has combined her vocal talents and performing experience with her patriotic passions to create of the I Sing, American Heritage Through Song, an innovative solo company featuring educational, interactive concert programming with the mission of bringing American history to life through music. Connecting audiences with American song and inspiring positive patriotism. Did I say that loud enough? Positive patriotism and engaged citizenship through the music of our nation. Sorry, that's very important to me. Audrey curates, writes, arranges, and performs these one-of-a-kind, one-woman shows. Of the I Sing program, themes include the women's suffrage movement, Amelia Earhart, Pioneer America, Jewish American composers, colonial revolutionary America, and the history of American Christmas music. Programs are created in versions for both adult and family student audiences. School programming is created with direct input from educators, of the I Sing programming has been endorsed by Caterpillar Inc., the Arts Federation, Arts Midwest Humanities Iowa, the Indiana Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts. I can go on and on, but I am just going to bring Audrey on. So without further ado, let's meet Audrey. So you have done so much in your career. Why don't you tell us about your journey and how you got to Of the I Sing, which I think is so cool. But let's tell us about
thanks
Audrey.
For the opportunity. I really appreciate it. So yeah, as you mentioned in my bio, I am a classically trained opera singer. That was my formal education. That was my professional training. And I'm still very happily work in that musical sphere. I still have wonderful connections, and I love to still continue to engage with professional roles and different concert things in that traditional vein. But I started to feel several years ago just this nagging feeling like there was supposed to be something more. And I wasn't quite sure what that was all about. But eventually it just got to the point where my motivation to keep going in the way that I'd been going, where the traditional operatic path was the entirety of what my artistic output was going to be, and my artistic, what I was going to stand for, and my why, why I was doing this. And it just didn't have enough honestly, for other people. There wasn't enough about what that connection was for me. And a lot of that is because when you are within the classical sphere as an opera singer, you are really one small piece of a very big production. And that's a wonderful thing. And I, right now, as an entrepreneur, where I have essentially taken on all of those roles, I tell you, I have sent so many emails out, so many texts saying, thank you so much. I had no idea how much you did for our productions. Now that I am doing my own wigs or my own costumes or whatever, I'm so grateful, and I never even knew. But all that to say, with that lesser degree of responsibility, you also have a reciprocal kind of lesser degree of how much your personal connection, like your personal why, can go into, right? Because you're one of so many people that are involved in coming together to bring something forward. And I felt like I wanted to be more in the driver's seat, because I started to feel called to a mission, which is to empower and celebrate the hero that is inside every American, to remind us that we have so much more in common than we do that divides us, and to remind us that when we work together, and we can look back in the history and see, when we've worked together, what we have been able to accomplish has been astounding. And that's our legacy, right? We have a lot of things that are in our legacy, and I don't wash over those things either. But I also feel that what guilt there is a limit to what that can do, and to what is possible with that. And the sky is the limit for what is possible when we feel empowered, and when we feel empowered to come together. And so the biggest kind of catalyst, I would say, for this is that during the course of my career, and this is very common for someone who is in the classical vocal sphere, is that my career took me to Germany. I was there for several years, and I was singing over there, and I loved it. I had a phenomenal German teacher when I was in my undergraduate years, and she just brought that whole world to life for me. And it just happened to be the language that clicked. And I was very happy for that, because that also happened to be the place in the world where they do opera in a way that you can be a soloist, and you can have kind of you're not freelancing all over the place necessarily. So that I was always drawn to that idea. And so I went, and I had a wonderful time. I'm still just as close to many people there as I am to my own family. But there were also some things that I began to be aware of, and it was the privilege of physical separation and distance from my home country that made me realize some things about Americans that I thought were just things about human beings, that are actually things that are intrinsic to our culture that we can be so proud of. The way that we are friendly, and not to say that Germans are not friendly, but the way that we are friendly to a perfect stranger on the street, any German would say, yes, that is a difference. That is absolutely different. And it's not bad or good, but yeah.
Germans are
They are.
very direct,
I appreciate that.
right?
I have to say.
They're very friendly, but they're
they are
so direct.
Yes. I will say, actually, as an entrepreneur, there have been many times when I've said, okay, call upon the experience that you had in Germany and proceed with a little bit more of that. And it has actually helped me a lot. I learned a lot from my time there. I have so much respect and admiration for so much of that culture.
Wow.
But there were some specific things that and again, it's not that anybody's bad, but it was I just got this newfound appreciation on a very personal level. And it made me so disheartened to then see things that were maybe going on where people were not, let's say, appreciating the things about America that we can all be proud of. And that really broke my heart because I was, again, physically in a separated place where I could finally really see those things and appreciate them. And so I decided that whenever the time was that I came back home, that I would endeavor to do something. At that point, I didn't know what it was, but I just knew, a couple things. I knew Americans needed to be reminded of the wonderful qualities that we have, that we share, that we can be proud of in a positive way. And I also knew that music has the power to kind of pause time and kind of take us to a place for a limited moment where we can share in something together, in an experience, and that those impacts are lasting and they continue to inform and inspire afterwards. So those were the things that I knew. And I let that percolate for a while until I was doing some genealogy research. I know you may think, gosh, that's so left field, Audrey, but just go with me for a second. So I was doing some genealogy research. I was moving back home to a new place, and I wanted to, engage with people that were involved in history and genealogy. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do my homework, because I knew that I had an ancestor that was involved in the Revolutionary War, but I didn't know the details. And so what I discovered is that this person was a Minuteman in the Lexington Alarm. And it was so impactful for me. I mean, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Right? I know.
Wow.
I was so humbled and I was so inspired. And in that moment, everything else that had been kind of brewing and simmering, it was the catalyst for, okay. So my calling is that I am an ambassador of American music, and I'm going to use all of my training and all of my experience and all of this, not only the experience on the, high traditional stage, but also all of those experiences, boots on the ground, in the schools, in the senior centers, in the community centers, where you make those personal, those just direct. I mean, sometimes I would be holding a person's hand singing God Bless America, right? And that extra squeeze you give that person, I mean, that is that tangible. And so all of those things came together, and I knew that was what all of my training had been for, what all of these experiences had been for, that they had been drawing me towards this calling. And so, of course, at that point, I had 100 ideas at once, and I thought, oh my gosh, well, this is never going to get off the ground if I start all of these at the same time. So I thought, let me start to do a little bit of digging into some of the areas that I was most drawn to in terms of our history. And so it did not take me long, because I thought, well, if I do that a little bit, I wonder if something isn't going to present itself as kind of a signal of, hey, this one should be more, higher on the totem pole. And so this was at the end of 2018. And so, the 19th Amendment is having its centennial in 2020. Okay, so the women's suffrage movement, and you can see back here, the women's suffrage movement became the theme and historical focus for the inaugural program that has now expanded to programming within of the icing. And this also was the program that allowed me to develop my framework. Again, I was very grateful and have a lot of respect for the standards of excellence that we have, the precision and all of that goes into the classical form. But I also knew that taken to an extreme, it can be a little bit stilted, and it can be, people kind of feel a little bit of a distance there. And I didn't want that, because I knew I'd been in other situations, outreach things that I knew the magic that was possible there. And I was also very excited to kind of, stretch out into a little bit of rebelliousness here, because again, with the utmost respect to the traditional world, okay, that withstanding, there were also some things that it took me a long time to realize I should maybe not just eat this up without question. I should maybe be a little more discerning with some of these ideas. Things like outreach is not earning your stripes, paying your dues, right? And so if we keep going with that sentence, where do we go? Paying your dues to the real career. So what are we saying then about the audiences, our paying our dues audiences? Are they less than? Are they less worthy of the highest possible, right? I mean, honestly, no. Not to put anybody in a comparative situation, but quite frankly, those are going to be the audiences that are so electrified, so engaged, so connected to you, and so genuinely excited to be a part of that collective experience. So just saying. So I was really excited to, again, take the components that I knew worked really well, that I could rely on, that would give me a consistency, right? But to also integrate some of the other aspects that I knew would be engaging and would bring this to life. It was all about bringing things to life in a way that was immersive, in a way that was multisensory, and that was participatory. That was a big one as well. And so my programs are not at all like your typical classical recital, where you go in and the person's in the one gown and they do a set of, German lieder, and then you clap, and then you're very quiet, and then they sing some French, and then you clap, and then you're very quiet. Again, great stuff, but not what I'm doing. So what I do is I break the mold and I break the wall. So within my programs, I go into the historical archives, and I bring forth music that is not only American music, that's a part of our culture and our heritage and our history in terms of commentary. It was history. It was cogs in the wheel of our history. It was making things happen, right? And, I have to say, as a musician, as a singer, when I see songs that have changed the course of history, I think, we really are important. We really do have a very vital role to play in the grand scheme of things. And so utilizing that music, but not just stopping there. So all of my programs are, I'm fully costumed, and I typically will change what I'm wearing transformatively on stage almost every song. So you get a lot of the visual, a lot of that fun going on. I don't just sing a set of songs and have liner notes in a program book that help people put together some kind of a story. Instead, what I do is I write a narrative script that guides the audience through the experience of living through this time period, whatever the theme is that we're going to explore in the particular program. There are historical images that I curate that are projected that go along with that narrative that give further visual immersion. And we also have lots of audience participation throughout the program in various forms, just depending on the components at play within the different themes that of the programs that I do. So in my Pioneer program, I get 12 volunteers from the audience, and I get up and we do a play party game like they used to play in Pioneer times. If it's my Suffrage program, I hand out hair combs and slips of wax paper, and we play a song from the jailhouse that they sang in utter rebellion and positivity in the face of all of the outrageous things they were dealing with. They used music as a source of strength, as a source of positivity and community. So in all of these different programs, we do different things, but, that saying that people are most engaged in things that they help to create, right? That they truly feel they are a part of and not just a bystander. They were a participant. Yes. And if you are a participant, you feel like there's level ground, and you also cannot help but have that information sink in and stay with you much deeper and much longer. So that is the kind of in a nutshell, I guess, although I do feel like I took quite some time to explain that to you. that's what I do. And, my audiences are everyone. I curate different versions of these programs for children. And when I do that, I'm very mindful of teacher needs. I completely understand and appreciate that teachers have no time for any extra things that are not going to reinforce what they are already incorporating into their lesson plans. So I really go to the source for those things and do everything that I possibly can to support those teachers. But then my programs for adults are a little bit different. And so I really make sure that the audiences are spoken to and engaged with appropriately so that impact can really have the maximum effect. So yeah, it's been a wild ride already, and I'm just getting started. I did the math, and at the end of the first quarter of this year, Of the I Sing has reached over 10,000 audience members in 10 states.
That's amazing, and I think the whole thing, there's a few things for me. First off, you said a bunch of things that no. You said a bunch of things that really, clicked and that mattered. But I think the most important thing that you said was that we are all stronger when we work together. And the best example that I can ever think of for that was the day after 9/11. Right. We weren't Republicans, we weren't Democrats, we weren't independents, we weren't the Green Party. We were Americans, and we were attacked. And there were people that I was not in New York at the time. I was in Chicago. So I was freaking out that I wasn't in New York because my family was in New York. But, my friends were just telling me how if somebody's electricity was out and they had a generator, people were charging their phone. Like everybody was helping each other.
That's right.
And it's like, what the hell happened? Well, that's another story. And I loved how music to me is the universal language. It is the universal connector, because through song, it's like, that's why I love what I do. I mean, music for me, I do semi-professionally, right? But for me, it's something, I get on stage and I sing and I see the joy on everybody's face. I don't know what, party they're in. I don't care.
That's right. Yes.
Right. And so what you do is, it's like Americana at its best. And American history, as messed up as it is also amazing. And I love the fact that you don't whitewash over the stuff that might, like Suffrage and other things that might not have, been the best of us, but everybody has the best of us and the worst of us. That's that's life. So I love what you do, and I love that you include it all. I think that's the most important thing. And the way that and I haven't seen you yet, but I'm that's like my goal this year, is like, before the year is over, I'm going to, see you. But just from us talking and YouTube stuff, it's very immersive, and people light up. Because now they're part of this thing that you're doing, and it's amazing. And I cannot give you enough kudos, and I can't be more proud to call you friend.
So
Seriously,
thank you. I really appreciate it.
What you do is it's just so important. And you mentioned entrepreneurship. Ta-da!
Turns out,
and that that's what this is about, right? But one of the things that I love about what I do with this is entrepreneurship has so many faces. You do Of the I Sing. I had, and I'm going to go completely, completely other side of the spectrum. I had Miss Jessica on, who's a drag queen, who's an entrepreneur. Sure. And like, I never thought of, I was like, oh, of course that's a business, right? So like, all of these things that we all do. So I do, marketing. My friend Annie does marketing. Michelle, who's also one of my clients, is a coach. All of these people do, and she's not just like any coach. It's like this amazing executive coach. She's just like phenomenal. But it's like everybody who is an entrepreneur does something meaningful. It's like, our why, right? Your why is you found your mission in life, basically, right? My why is I want to help people and help them grow their business. Like I giggle, like, when my clients, like, I look at Smith IPM as my client, and I get an email, and it's off of his website, and it's web inquiry 324.
That's great.
That means that 324 people, how many clients did he get from that? There's like so much good in what we do as small businesses, right? And that's essentially what we are. So, okay. So, so we know how you became an entrepreneur. That's pretty, well, actually, we really don't. Like, what was right? So what was the point where you were like, and I know, like, being a singer and stuff, technically, you're an entrepreneur.
I had a lot to learn. I'm still, of course, learning a lot.
Yeah, but with Of Thee I Sing, this is like a huge, what made you go, besides the why and wanting to get the Americana out there, what was the moment where you were like, because this is a business, and how did you know it was going to be viable?
Well, so I had reached out to a couple of my mentors in the field and had talked to them about the idea. And they're from a diverse kind of pool. So one person is a folk musician, and he does some history things in upstate New York, but he's a folk artist and he's a guy. So, does he want to do the costume? Does he want to do the stuff? Like, no,
go ahead, so.
But he really knows what people are going to be receptive to and what's going to resonate with them in terms of the history. My other mentor is a bass baritone who has sung all over the world and yet is just the most down-to-earth, greatest guy ever, living in Chicago. But has done some one-man shows, but they were more introducing people to opera arias and the stories of different operas. So his was history a little bit, but not anything like what I was going to do. But sharing my ideas and with people that I felt would understand what I was talking about and who had enough experience with their own performing and their own kind of solo offerings, and the amazing response that I received from that. I mean, I remember even Dave is the name of the guy in upstate New York. And I remember emailing him and saying, like, what do you think about Of Thee I Sing? Like, is that too kitschy? Of Thee I Sing, American Heritage Through Song. What do you think? He's like, Audrey, that's fantastic. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for it.
It's amazing. It's like, and I remember when you were like, actually Angie was like, she does Of Thee I Sing. I was like, that's freaking brilliant. Like, as a marketer, I was like, that's amazing. Like, that's just, oh my God. Cause that's like literally what you do, right? Of Thee, of America.
Exactly.
I Sing.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's like, pow.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just like so fascinated. So one of the things we talked about was, the experiences that led you to develop the signature model. So we talked about that. But when you're out there doing this, there's got to be this sense of, like immense pride. And I don't mean that in like the seven sins way, right? Like I really mean it in like this oh my God, like, you're bringing people together. You're through song, through the stories that you tell with song. That's just got to be an amazing thing. And I think, because what you're doing isn't entrepreneurship, did you have any idea what it was going to be like to like kind of be on your own or to be that solopreneur?
No. Well, yes and no. I have heard that the current generations of opera singers going through training have to take business classes. And I'm really happy about that because I was so fortunate. I mean, really, when I look back on the specific schools that I went to and the experiences that I had, not everyone was so fortunate. And so I'm so grateful for those things. And yet there were many things that were lacking. And when I look back, I don't see it really at all to blame any specific person that I knew for not teaching me. It was really a sign of the way that business model was put into motion and the way that an opera singer, how that channel kind of, went into the big picture. Going into the women's suffrage movement, I thought, oh, it's kind of like coverture. We're under the cover of our fathers, and we're under the cover of our husbands. Well, for an opera singer, you have your voice teacher, and then you have your resident program, and then you have your agent, and it's great, but you're not really responsible for curating and cultivating necessarily if you have a mission or if you have some goals and not goals for yourself, like, okay, well, in my career, so I'm going to start with the, Carabinos and the light pants rolls, and then I'm going to move into this. And by the time I'm, in my late 40s, I will have sung Carmen. This is exactly the kind of conversations that singers have with each other and with their coaches and with their teachers, and their agents. That is a career for a singer. There are roles that are, bigger. And so your voice grows. There are more dramatic parts or whatever. But that's how the whole paradigm is constructed, really. And I'm sure if there's anybody watching who's from the classical world and they feel that I've offended you, please know I have the utmost respect, truly, for the form and for anybody who is involved in it. And I really don't mean any ill will by it. But for those of us who started to feel like maybe we wanted something a little more in terms of being a little bit more autonomous with what we could do with the difference and the impact, it just wasn't quite set up for what I eventually found was my calling. And so I had a lot of work to do. I had a lot of homework to do. And I had a lot of, I don't even know what I don't know, right? I mean, when I really stepped into this, it was, oh, I need to start thinking like an opera company in terms of I need to take ownership of all those other departments that I was nice to the people and had good relationships, but I didn't, when I was rehearsing, they were doing other things. And so what were those things? Those things were things like sewing costumes. Those things were things like wig putting together. Those things were things like writing a script or composing music. I mean, I don't compose because I use historical music by intention. And so it's not going to be new stuff, but I arrange it. You better believe, or if I don't do it, I delegate that to a very accomplished colleague. But those things, regardless, they're on my radar now. They're part of my responsibility. Right.
Wow.
And so that was kind of the first huge aha awakening, if I'm starting from total ignorance here and we're okay. But then realizing, oh, I have to put on the agent hat. I have to put on the community relations hat. I have to put, all of these, I have to put on the accountant hat. I'm going to delegate some of these things, but I need to understand at least at a minimum level what are we even talking about here, so that I know how to proceed. I'm my own, I'm my own, marketing director or my own social media person, at least for right now. Or again, even to the extent that I would delegate, it always comes from me in terms of the concept and the approach and the best practices and all of those things. And so, yes, it was a lot to realize, and quite intimidating to realize what I didn't know, and then to think, oh gosh, wow, these are immense, these are businesses unto themselves, entities or aspects, facets of what's going on. And at least to some extent, I must understand what's going on. And I will tell you, the antidote to my fear has been the audience that I think of, like what you were saying about, aren't you proud? Well, yes, I am proud. I'm just delighted. I'm just overjoyed to bring these programs to these audience members. And those faces are ones that give me so much. They give me everything. They give me my motivation. They're my litmus test, because if I'm getting afraid, it's become about me too much. And it ceased to be about them. And I will tell you also, this is a big thing that was extremely liberating. And again, I'm not trying to, drag through the mud those who have, supported and are wonderful people within the traditional classical world. I'm not trying to do that, but I think they would probably agree with me that there is a big paradigm that is cultivated where approval is our motivator a lot, and as opposed to connection. And it has but it makes sense that it would be that way because of the way that the whole system is organized and the extreme competition involved. And that is the other thing that is I feel so free, and I feel such compassion and sympathy sometimes for people that are, in the opera world, and you hear over and over again, there's not enough work. There's not enough work. There's not enough work. And I think, gosh, that's so sad. There's audiences all over the place that don't get high quality music performances. And if we could just turn the tables and see, we have audiences everywhere. And you know what? They're right in our backyard. We don't have to be perpetual nomads and strangers in our hometown. We can actually become, we can see people in our communities that we aspire to be, and we can be there physically present enough to where we could actually aspire to be that and have that be something that becomes a reality, as opposed to, oh, I think I've seen that name, and you don't get connected. And that's just, it's such a shame because it's right here in front of us. There are some skill sets we have to learn to make that possible. And you really have to turn the tables on that paradigm. You cannot have anymore this, and when you go into conservatory, you're like 18, right? So you've come out of high school, which means you've come out of middle school, which means, and if you're anything like me, singing is kind of when the bullying, they kind of shut up. And so it kind of becomes your armor. And so then you go into conservatory and, oh man, at that point, right, your voice and your ability to do well is just intrinsically linked with your worth, like your personal worth. That is not,
wow.
And yes, that is my personal story, but I will tell you that is not anything that is uncommon. And I know now from speaking to a lot of people that, especially those who have tragically left the business, despite being incredible talents and wonderful performers, it was that. And I will tell you, it is so liberating now that my why is not about having anything to prove. It's not proving. If you're busy proving, you can't share. That proportion is constant. So if you are, which means you're not going to perform well. So it's this vicious cycle. Not good. You want to reverse that, where your goal is, I don't care how much I impress people with my vocal mechanics and whatever fireworks of whatever I can do. I'm effective when I have connected, genuinely connected through the human voice, and where I've used the training to do that as honestly as I can. And so that is really when the dominoes started going in the other direction. And I feel that that is really why I have had the success that I have had, because it has been from such a genuine place. It stopped being about me only, or me at a level that's not the right balance. And so that was just the magic. And so, yes, do I have a lot to learn? Absolutely. Is it scary? Of course. It's terrifying. All the entrepreneurs know, right? The Eleanor Roosevelt, we've got to do at least one thing a day that scares us. And so.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, and with all that said, right? So with all that you've been through and everything that you've said, what advice would you have to give somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur? Not necessarily in the singing, world, but in general, because there's so much to it, as you clearly said. What's like a piece of advice that you would have for them?
That's very kind that you would even ask that of me, because that indicates that you feel that I have some semblance of knowledge. I feel very much in the introductory phases of learning, but I would say, first of all, make sure that your why is coming from a place that replenishes you. Make sure it comes from a place that reinforces you authentically and is not you proving somebody wrong, not you proving, we've got to separate those things, because that is completely unsustainable and draining, exhausting. So that's the biggest thing, is figuring out what your why is and making sure that it's coming from that place. And then I would say, before you start, gather some knowledge about how businesses work. I would say, reach out to your small business administration office for some advice, and really make sure that you're speaking to people that have had a lot of experience in the area of business.
Okay, so it's funny. I ask everybody that question on the show, and I get so many different answers. And that's probably one of my favorite questions to ask, because of just the variety of answers that I get. But so thank you for that. So the real purpose for doing this podcast, now you're all going to be privy to this, is we have a really cool local event happening here in Lafayette. And Audrey's a huge part of it, and I'm going to let you talk about it. So
this Saturday at 6 p.m. at the River City Community Center, I am presenting a program for Constitution Week. This is in collaboration with the local Daughters of the American Revolution chapter, of which I am a very proud member. We're the General de Lafayette chapter, and we are co-hosting this event. And we also have wonderful collaborators as well. The pianist that I collaborate with most often in town is Leanna Atwell, and many people know her, as they well should, for her phenomenal songwriting, her incredible voice. Oh my gosh. But she is also just a top-notch, phenomenal pianist. And so she is our pianist for that. And we also have a featured guest performer who will be joining the stage with me, Claire Chula, who everybody in town knows as Shiza. And so we are bringing together this program in honor of Constitution Week, which actually Constitution Day and Constitution Week exist because of the DAR petitioning Congress many decades ago to make that happen. And, one of the biggest things when I think about the Constitution is its call to action for continual engagement, for continual collective improvement, that is our legacy, that is our responsibility, and that is something that should bring us together. And so that is really what we are doing, is we are starting from the history before those revolutionary sentiments were even in the air, because we want to show this progression. How did we get there, so that when we think about the Constitution, we're thinking about it with all of that contextual information to inform us, right? Because as they say, right, learn about the past to inform the present and to enact the future. So that is what we are doing. And what we are so excited about is that in addition to what we will learn and what we hopefully people will take away from that in terms of informing, their actions in their day-to-day lives, we also have an incredible tangible, as our dear friend and community leader Paula Davis would say, we have a tangible call to action towards a tangible monument marker that we are fundraising to install here in the greater Lafayette community. And so what this will be, this is actually would be the first historical marker in the greater Lafayette area commemorating local Black history. And so the marker that had been decided upon by the leadership here in town is that the Bethel AME Church that still stands came to be because Frederick Douglass came to Lafayette. He gave speeches and he fundraised to help make that a reality. And so that is something that we feel people need to know. And that is something that needs to be commemorated in a way that will stand the test of time. And so that is what this concert is. Of course, it's a community event. It is a free event. So please come on down. I would say there is nothing overtly, offensive or anything to that nature, but just due to the way, let's say, that the narrative has been constructed, it really will be more of interest to an audience of adults, or somewhere around the age of 11, 10 would probably be the youngest that would find it interesting, just in this particular format, just so that we know that. But all of the proceeds will go to that marker in a community initiative to come together in celebration of this history that we should all be proud is a part of the history that we share here in Lafayette. And I will say, as a fairly recent transplant to the area, I have just been so deeply touched, really, by the way that this community has embraced me and embraced what I do. It is such an area of genuine passion and enthusiasm for their history. I mean, the feast would be just a couple weeks after. And so, people get together and they dig in and they do this together, and it's a multi-generational thing. And so to be able to have a part in bringing something like this to life in our community with the goal of installing something tangible, something lasting, is just such a deep honor. And I am thrilled about everything that we're doing. And I really hope that everyone can join us. So thank you very much.
Awesome. No, thank you. So that is 6 p.m. at River City Church, which is on, it's off of Old 231 South. For those of you local people, for those of you who are national, who are listening in, if you haven't tuned out already, it's a really cool little location here. And I think that the fact that Lafayette is embracing diversity the way that they are, like with Angie's, dedicating Eveline Stein's
that was huge.
plaque. I mean, that was huge. The first female author in, Lafayette, published author. And now, we're going to have a plaque commemorating, the Black community. And I do too. I love living here. I mean, I really do. Like if, this New Yorker, if you would have told me
South Georgia, I get it.
Right. 30 years ago that I'd be in Lafayette, Indiana going, yeah, I love it here, but I really do. There's so much cool stuff here. So thank you for that. And thank you for bringing what you do to life, because it's just so important. I just can't say it enough. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for taking time out of I know that this is like probably the busiest week that you have. And I'm like, give me an hour here. So thank you for that. And how can people find you?
So
Where
if
can
you
they find
go
you?
to www.oftheicing.com. There is information right on the landing page. We've got a big bar at the top there. That should be probably the easiest and the most direct way to go. And yes, and so you can contact me from there. You can reserve. We would say, so it is free and it is open to everyone. Reservations would be appreciated just so that we know kind of what to expect and we can have that support ready to, to accommodate everyone. So that it would be wonderful to just get that heads up. But again, come as you are, come with or without a reservation. We're happy to have you. It just helps us out a little bit, but come and get ready to come together and to make that contribution towards that tangible, lasting community effort. So thank you again. Yeah.
Okay. And the last question that I ask all of my guests is, what lights your fire?
Well, so many things do, but I think, so when I'm putting together a program and if I find either a really juicy piece of history, an unexpected story that I think people will delight in, finding a song and realizing, oh, I can teach them this part. I can add motions to this part. Oh, we're going to have a lot of fun with this part. And just knowing the joy that's coming with being able to bring that to life, that lights my fire every time. Thanks.
Love it. All right. Well, Audrey Johnson, thank you so much. Hang on one second. Okay. I'm going to say goodbye and I'll be right back. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging in. I know this wasn't like our typical episode, but I felt that it was important. And I really believe in the work that Audrey does. And we're stronger together. And I think that the fact that her program brings people together is huge. So thank you for listening. As always, like, share, subscribe, download, and review. Keep the reviews coming because the more reviews we get, the higher in the ranking we get. And we're trying to get up there. Appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya. Bye.